Many of you have heard the term non-dual consciousness or non-duality. Many of us have also heard the term enlightenment. Both of those terms have entered Western popular consciousness in the last 50, 60 years. Their roots are actually very, very deep in the traditions of the interior sciences, both Eastern interior sciences and Western interior sciences. And what I want to try and talk about tomorrow is why non-dual consciousness and enlightenment, as they are classically understood, actually distort and shatter something in the human being, number one. Number two, that shattering undermines a person's sense of their fundamental goodness. And number three, why, as they're classically understood, and of course there's variation across traditions, but as they're classically understood, why non-dual consciousness and classical enlightenment cannot be the response to the meta crisis. That's part one. Part two, what is the evolution of enlightenment? What is the evolution of non-dual consciousness? And in some sense, the answer to those two questions has been for the last 12, 13, 14 years at the core of the new story of value that we are trying to articulate here in the heart of the revolution, if you will, in One Mountain, Many Paths, in response to the meta crisis, telling this new story of value. At the heart of this new story of value is a new story of enlightenment, a new story of non-dual consciousness, which births in its wake something that I originally called non-dual humanism, or acosmic humanism, two fancy words, don't worry about them. Now we call it cosmoerotic humanism for lots of reasons. But this new evolutionary understanding, or let me say it a little differently, this new evolved understanding, this next level understanding, this deeper understanding of actually what enlightenment is and what non-dual consciousness is, when we reconfigure it, when we understand it more deeply, then this new vision of enlightenment and this new vision, this new experience of non-dual consciousness becomes the very core of the response to the meta crisis. The very essence of what it means to birth a new human and a new humanity, to move from Homo armor to Homo Amor, from the armored man that Reich described so deeply, and Dr. Kincaid does such beautiful work within our world, to Homo Amor, from Homo armor to Homo Amor. Homo Amor being this emergence of this new potential, this new potency in the evolutionary chain, this new potency of humanity, this birth of this new human, new humanity that I actually can become when I actually begin to cross to the other side. And the only response to the crisis is the crossing, right? The only response to the crisis is the crossing. The crisis is the meta crisis. To not look away, to actually be deeply aware of it, to take responsibility for the sake of the whole, ecstatically, filled with celebration, filled with delight, to take my seat at the table of history But my response to the crisis can't be just infrastructure, right? Let's monitor synthetic biology well. It can't be just social structure. Let's create new forms of regulation. It actually has to be a new superstructure, which I want to understand as a new story of value, which has to be a new story of who I am, but not a made-up story, but the deepest understanding of the world of who I am, that as soon as I internalize it, it changes the taste of my food. It changes the touch of my finger. It changes the fragrance that my nostrils are able to absorb. It changes the beauty that I see through my eyes. It changes the tones, the melodies that I hear through my ears. Everything changes. My entire experience of reality changes, and I can taste and see that it's so good, that I'm so welcome. And we find our way from potential dystopia to an unimaginably good, true, and beautiful world, a world that we already know in our hearts is waiting to be born. So let's take our seat at the table. We're going to have a wild ride tomorrow. I want to, if I can, with permission, gently just invite you. Let's show up like we never have before. Let's step inside as if this was the last moment of our lives, and we never know when we draw our last breath. And we actually step in, and we become more than we've ever been before, with more delight and more joy and more pathos and more feeling and more heart broken open and more delight, right? Outrageously, right? We live in a world of outrageous pain. The only response is outrageous love. And we live in a world of outrageous beauty. And the only response is outrageous love. So let's get outrageous in a few hours. Madly, thank you.